Thank you, everyone. My name is Miguel Molina, and over the next 15 minutes or so, I'll be sharing a little bit of our experience. We just turned, in the summer of 2025, we just turned 10 years. So I'll try to share with you some of the key lessons that we've learned over the last 10 years. So before I start, let me see if this is syncing. Yeah, before I start, I want to share with you a little bit of what we do. And I think that's going to help you relate to the lessons that I'm going to be sharing. The best way to explain what we do is by explaining our superpower. We only do one thing, and I believe we're great at it. We provide advanced analytic solutions to higher education institutions. That's it. That's what we do. To give you additional background, we try to solve 4 headaches for higher education institutions: admissions, retention, employability, and learning. We decided about 8 years ago to rely our technology on Microsoft. So we're a full stack on Microsoft. Our business model is B2B. So as you probably already know, this is one of the slowest decision-making industries in the world. Higher education institutions take forever to innovate, to decide. Budgets are quite fixed, so there's not a lot of discretionality. And this defines already how EdTechs that go after a B2B market in higher education behave. Very rarely you're going to see a hockey stick in our business model. No, it's really hard to grow really fast with this type of environment. And again, not every higher education institution is our customer. They need to have, in our case, they need to have a certain data maturity. Think about data management, think about data governance and data analytics. Plus, they need to have a certain volume of students. Plus, they need to have the budget. So this defines a little bit where we come from, and this gives you also some ideas of the lessons that I'm going to share with you. So since we turned 10, I thought that it was quite fitting to share 10 lessons. But before I start sharing those 10 lessons, there's a disclaimer. These lessons are based on my personal experience, our company's personal experience. Not everything is going to work for you guys. Different business models might require a different approach. Some might be controversial, so use the last line. Take what resonates, adapt what works, and whatever doesn't work, just ignore it. Okay, you ready? So first lesson, fundraising. Try to run away from fundraising at the very beginning of your journey. It's going to take tons of energy. You're going to lose the focus from, given that you're a small team, you're going to lose the focus from what actually gets you momentum. You're the leader, you're the one that is selling, you're the one that is building. And fundraising takes tons of energy. So if I were to give you one advice, it would be focus on getting traction. That's it. The key word that investors want to listen to is, this is my traction. I already have X amount of customers, I already have this momentum. I know this is a little bit of a paradox, because once you have traction, you're not going to rely on capital as you were needing at the very beginning. But regardless, try to push as much as you can fundraising, any fundraising effort. Again, this is based on my experience. Second lesson, do you remember this idea that we all saw about Hewlett-Packard building in a garage, or Microsoft, no? Bill Gates putting everything together in a garage? Forget about it. Don't build for your customer, build with your customer. So the idea here is try to co-create with the guy that has the pain and figure out different approaches to this. In our case, we've explored, for instance, co-investing with the customer and be transparent with the customer. Co-invest with the customer and say, hey, I'm going to use you as a guinea pig. Let's try to put this product together. You'll keep the IP, and then I'll try to sell it outside. Or we'll go and share the royalties once we can scale this. But try to be as close with your customer as you can. Products, once you run into the customer, are going to have a different face than whatever product you're trying to design in a garage or in a lab. Third lesson, market expansion. So we were founded out of Miami. And as you probably know, Miami is the closest Latin American city to the US. So Latin America was our market. Spain was even a more natural market. But for about 5 years or so, we tried to penetrate the US market. We invested tons of money. We hired a high caliber executive because it was an American guy that knew the market, was experienced, he made all the sense of the world. We had very little to show for that investment. So push that 5 years into the future. We decided, forget about the US. We're not cracking this code. And we decided to figure out a different approach. We're going indirectly into the US. So instead of knocking on doors, trying to go directly with universities or higher education institutions, now we sign an exclusivity for the North American market to a company called CampusWorks. And basically, they already have feet on the ground. They already have tons of universities that are part of their installed database, and they are the ones selling under their brand our solutions. So figure out how the market works and what you need to penetrate that market. It took us a lot of money and a lot of time. Partnerships. If I go to my computer now, there are more collaboration agreements that I would like to have. Lots of good intentions. For us, the reselling mode doesn't work. We've tried over and over. There's a company that wants to resell your services. And they try it, and we try it, but we have very little to show for. You have to figure out a partner that actually complements you. I'm going to make a little bit of fun out of this slide. You need to figure out who's the ketchup for your fries. And it took us a lot of time, and I think CampusWorks, for instance, there's a perfect fit there. We're working with a CRM company. They provide CRM services for higher education, and we provide the advanced analytics that sits on top of that CRM. So that complements the services. So this is another lesson for us. Lesson number 5. This is what one of our board of advisors calls scaffolding. Sit or try to stand on the shoulders of giants. So about 8 years ago, we decided to go full on Microsoft. And even though there might be some advantages in terms of technology, what really adds value to us is the same example as the fries and the ketchup. So Microsoft is in the best interest of selling their cloud, and we're in the best interest of selling our solution. So if those two things are perfectly aligned, then all of a sudden you have a sales team, that I'm going to say it's a sales team, but an influencer team out of Microsoft, pushing your startup to different universities. And this is invaluable for startups, when nobody knows you. And to have the endorsement of Microsoft, that helps tons. The other giant that I would mention is, of course, CampusWorks. They are probably about 60 to 70 times larger than we are. Tons of salespeople in the US market. So they already have the market. They already have the sales team. We didn't need to invest. We invested already. We don't have to invest now to reach the final customer. Everybody with me? Okay, we're halfway there. I shared this at the very beginning. This is probably one of the slowest industries to work on, at least in the B2B higher education space. If you're going after this market, you need to prepare not for a sprint, but for a marathon. Everything is going to take longer than you expect. Budgets are going to take longer than you expect. So this patience, it's going to be key for your survival. Lesson number 7, and it is about the team. So you probably, us that we're in the EdTech space, educational space, in order to have a good team, we have a very strong advantage on our side. And you probably heard when Steve Jobs approached the guy that was going to be the CEO of Apple at some point. This guy used to be the CEO for, I don't remember if Coke or Pepsi. And to convince this guy, Steve Jobs told him, hey, we're not going to sell sugary water. We're going to try to change the world. And something that plays on our favor is that we're not only here to make money, but we're also trying to have an impact. And this is important for the team. So it plays on our favor. Something that is also key and that I learned many years ago, it's, by the way, one of the lessons, I didn't put it here, but try to have a board of advisors. I think this is great from the very beginning. So one of the advice that I got from one of our board of advisors many years ago is, when you're going to hire A players. Because if you hire B players, soon enough, they will be hiring C players. And I hope that makes sense. Okay, lesson number 8. I probably pushed the boundaries a little bit with this image. But I'm trying to make a very strong point here. It's better for you to have a co-founder than not to have one. It's just like, if you're going to have a kid, you better have it with someone. Not that you cannot do it alone, but better to have someone. But think of your co-founder, that this relationship is going to be a little bit like your spouse. There are going to be great times, but there are going to be tough times. There are going to be many times where you're not going to agree on the best way forward. And then there are tons of startups that I've seen fail because the co-founders couldn't agree. And that's okay. But as long as you try to manage that with comprehension, respect, and resilience, and just like a marriage, I think that's the way out. So be careful on choosing your co-founder. Some of you might know Naval Reykjavik. He's a famous investor in the US. He always says that there are 3 things that you should be looking for in a co-founder. High intelligence. You want someone to be really smart. High energy. You don't want a co-founder that you need to tell him, hey, get to work. And third thing, you want someone with high integrity. You don't want someone with high energy, high intelligence that is a crook. So focus on those 3 things. Okay, this industry is heavily reliant on references. You could have the best product, but the best question that you're going to get is, who are you working with? And in some markets, like the US, it's not only about who you're working with, because we were going after the US saying, hey, Tech of Monterey has already this and this other university, but who are you working with in this market? So the best marketing tool that you're going to get is references, higher education references. Last one. This is not going to be a straight line. And this is an interesting balance act, because you need to be as strict as possible on that's exactly where we're going, but very flexible to pivot in order to get there. There are tons of pressure points taking place at the same time. Technology is changing overnight. Business models need to change. So you need to be flexible enough to figure this out and keep moving forward. All right. So these are the 10 lessons that I wanted to share with you. Perfect timing, 58 seconds. So my final question for you is, what would your 10 lessons be? And here's my contact information, LinkedIn, QR code if you want to connect. Thank you very much.